Welcome back. Today, we're diving into some pretty startling research that reveals a new reality for Pakistan. The country has an unofficial fifth season, and it's called Smog.
Yeah, you heard that right. For a lot of people, especially in big cities like Lahore, the year isn't just spring, summer, fall, and winter anymore. There's this new toxic, disruptive season that's just shown up, and it is completely changing how people live day to day. So let's get into what that really means.
Okay, so first things first. What exactly is this unwanted season? I mean, we're not just talking about a few bad weather days here. This is a recurring, toxic haze that just descends on cities and messes with absolutely everything.
The word for it, of course, is smog. It's literally a mashup of smoke and fog. And honestly, that's the perfect description. It's like this thick, heavy blanket of pollution that you can literally see, feel, and worst of all, breathe in.
And the impact on daily life? It's huge. I mean, when this smog rolls in, visibility just plummets. It's not just about traffic slowing to a crawl. It means way more accidents. You've got whole cities practically grinding to a halt. Trying to catch a flight? Good luck. It's a total gamble with all the cancellations. It just throws a wrench into everything.
But you know, it's so much more than just an inconvenience. This haze is actually dangerous. It's a silent killer. So let's dig into the numbers and see just how lethal this stuff really is.
To get some perspective, let's look at the big picture. The World Health Organization estimates that air pollution kills around, get this, 7 million people around the world every single year. That makes it one of the biggest environmental health threats out there, period.
So how do we even measure something like this? Well, there's something called the Air Quality Index, or AQI. Think of it like a weather forecast for pollution. 0 to 50? You're golden. That's clean air. But once you start creeping past 150, it gets unhealthy. And if it hits 300 or more, that's a full-blown health emergency for literally everyone.
Okay, so keeping that scale in mind, in December 2021, the city of Lahore hit a peak AQI of 453. 453. That's not just in the hazardous zone. It's way, way into it. We're talking about air so toxic, it's an immediate, serious threat to everyone breathing it.
Which of course makes you wonder, where is all this stuff coming from? Let's break down the sources of this smog.
Well, it's not just one thing. It's a whole mix. You've got the big ones, right? Burning fossil fuels for cars and power plants. Then there are the massive emissions from the industrial sector. But it doesn't stop there. You've also got people burning trash and even farmers burning leftover crops. It all just gets thrown into the air, creating this toxic soup.
And here's a really specific, kind of shocking example. Brick kilns. They're a huge industry, but a lot of them make things so much worse because they burn really dirty fuels. We're talking about things like old rubber tires. Can you imagine the kind of toxic stuff that puts into the air?
Okay, so we know what's causing it, and we know it's incredibly dangerous. So that brings us to the million-dollar question. What's being done about it? This is where we get into the whole promises versus reality situation. What's been pledged, and is any of it making a difference?
You know, the research we're looking at boils it down to a really simple but powerful question. Everybody knows what the problem is. The big question is, who's going to step up and control it? And how?
And there were promises. If we go back to November 2019, the government made this big announcement, and it sounded pretty good. The plan was to bring in cleaner fuel, give the old oil refineries 3 years to get their act together, and even start talks with EV manufacturers. On paper, it looked like a solid plan.
But what actually happened? Let's just look at the data. This is Lahore just a little over 2 years after that big announcement. And you can see through January 2022, the air didn't get better. It got worse. It went from unhealthy to very unhealthy. And by the end of the month, it was right back in that hazardous territory. It's just a crystal clear example of what happens when big promises aren't backed up by real sustained action. So, okay, if what's been tried so far hasn't worked, where do we go from here? The good news is there are solutions. Let's shift gears and look at some proven strategies and cool new tech that might actually be able to clear the air.
And the really good news? We're not just guessing here. The World Health Organization actually has a whole policy roadmap for governments. It's a clear, step-by-step guide that other countries have used to fight back against air pollution.
And here are the big-ticket items on that roadmap. It's all about making huge, system-wide changes. We're talking about investing in clean energy, getting serious about waste management,
building smarter cities, making clean fuel accessible to everyone, and, of course, creating great public transport. Now, these are the massive, foundational shifts you need. The catch? They require a ton of money and political will, which is, a huge challenge for any country.
But it's not all just about policy, which is pretty cool. As we look ahead, there's some really innovative technology that's giving us new tools to actively fight this stuff.
Check some of these out. We're talking about things like creating super clean fuels from natural gas, or using hydrogen additives to cut down on emissions. There are even these wild photocatalytic materials, basically surfaces you can coat things with that literally eat pollutants out of the air. And then there's my personal favorite, these giant air-purifying smog-free towers. So the very first one of these was built in Rotterdam, and it can clean, wait for it, 3.5 million cubic meters of air per day. Now, look, they're expensive and they're not going to solve the whole problem on their own, but it's an actual working piece of tech that shows what's possible, and that's a pretty hopeful thought.
And that really brings us to the heart of it all. We know what the problem is, right? It's crystal clear, and we have a roadmap full of solutions, from big government policies to futuristic tech. So the real challenge isn't figuring out what to do. The real question, the one that matters most, is how do we make sure it actually gets done?